When WWE decided to unify the tag titles and introduce a new design, fans were hoping for something special. What they got instead looked like someone had melted down a bunch of pennies and shaped them into the most...
Oh my God, I was waiting for it. Who remembers the pennies tag titles, bro? When I saw this shit, I was like, bro, they look like pennies. And then they ended up splitting them up for Raw and SmackDown to only look like dimes and quarters. So they upgraded. Now they don't look like pennies. They look like quarters now. I was just like, what the fuck is this? What's good, y'all? It's your boy Ross back at again with another video. So we're going to check out best versus worst WWE Championship belts. We've seen some beautiful championship belts over the years, and then we've also seen some okay looking championship belts, and then we've seen some downright hideous and ugly. I will never forget the day where I was watching Monday Night Raw and they had Mick Foley come out there and debut the new Universal Championship, the WWE Universal Championship. First of all, the name originally was so cringe because they were going with the whole WWE Universe thing, so they decided to put it on a belt, that moniker, the WWE Universe. They went to Universal Championship. Y'all remember the red raspberry jam belt? It was hideous. It was hideous. It didn't matter who held that belt. It was hideous. Then, when it went over to SmackDown, it became the blue raspberry belt. And even though Roman Reigns did the best he could to make that belt look, prestigious, which he did. He brought the most prestige to that belt. Obviously Brock Lesnar held it, but it was just a paperweight. I'm pretty sure as soon as he walked in Gorilla, he just threw the belt down or put it in a suitcase because that shit was ugly. But whether it was red or blue, it was ugly, bro. In my personal opinion. People got used to it, but it was just one of the worst looking belts. So I'm sure this is probably going to be on the list, but we'll see. Appreciate all love and support. Let's check out some of these beautiful looking belts and some of the belts that probably should have thrown in the trash immediately.
For every iconic WWE Championship belt that looks like it belongs in a museum, there's one that looks like it was drawn with crayons by a 5-year-old. Kicking off our list is a title that serves as a masterclass in how to make the worst first impression possible.
Oh, no.
After the brand split, Raw needed its own world championship.
I was just talking about it.
To compete with SmackDown's WWE title. The company hyped up this big reveal for weeks leading into SummerSlam. But when Stephanie McMahon and Mick Foley finally unveiled the belt, the crowd's disappointment said it all. What WWE presented was essentially the exact same design as the WWE Championship, except they'd swapped the black strap for a bright red one. That's it. That was the big innovation. It looked like someone spent maybe 5 minutes in Photoshop changing the color slider. The lazy design completely overshadowed what was actually a fantastic match between the Demon King and Seth Rollins, with fans booing the belt throughout the contest. Things got even worse when the title switched to SmackDown years later and became bright blue instead, proving that no matter which color you chose, a world champion should never be walking around with a belt that looks like it belongs in a Crayola box. Fortunately, WWE eventually figured out that world championships should actually look prestigious with their current World Heavyweight Championship design.
Which I know some people initially was like, they wish they brought the OG Big Goldie back. But I understood why they switched it up. And I personally don't have a problem with this. I think this actually looks pretty good. It got the old school vibe of Big Goldie. But at the same time, it has the new school vibe of how they want to present the title. It has the WWE logo big on front, and it has the globe behind it. I like it. It actually looks pretty good in my opinion. I know some people are iffy on it. I think this was actually one of their better designs of championship belts that they brought created for WWE.
Introduced in 2023, this belt immediately looked the part from day one. The design pays homage to the classic big gold belt that WCW made famous, while still feeling modern and fresh enough to stand on its own. Every champion who's held it, from Seth Rollins to Gunther to Damian Priest, has looked like a big deal with it around their waist. The belt has weight to it, both literally and figuratively. WWE learned their lesson from the Universal Championship disaster, and this time they actually put thought and effort into creating something wrestlers would be proud to carry.
I like it.
In stark contrast to the elegant design of the World Championship, the 2016 Cruiserweight Championship proved that sometimes trying too hard to be different results in something that's just differently terrible.
The purple Cruiserweight
When WWE
Championship.
brought back the Cruiserweight division with their 2016 tournament, fans were excited to see what the new title would look like. What they got was a belt that looked like it had been designed by someone who'd never actually seen a championship before. The bright purple strap was the first red flag.
I think, yeah. I probably would have did like, I would have kept it simple. A black and gold strap. I think that would have been fine. I know the theme of the show in the presentation was, had purple in it. Maybe you could have put some purple accents in it or something like that. Maybe some purple jewels. I think that would have been probably better. But the whole purple strap, it came off as like a toy and not to be taken seriously. So,
Or purple flag in this case. Purple might work for certain brands or shows, but as a primary color for a championship belt, it just looked cheap.
yeah.
The title was so bad that it made the 2006 version of the Cruiserweight title look like a work of art in contrast.
Looks way
TJ
better.
Perkins won the inaugural tournament and received this monstrosity along with a huge trophy that looked more desirable than the actual belt. The Cruiserweight Championship taught us an important lesson. When creating a title belt, unique and good are not synonyms. But moving on from the purple disaster, the European Championship stands as proof that
classic.
WWE in the late 90s knew how to make mid-card titles look absolutely stunning.
Yes. Yes, man.
Introduced in 1997, the European title was a gorgeous piece of craftsmanship that deserved far more respect than it ever received during its run. The design featured the flags of various European nations beautifully incorporated
belt.
into the gold plating. Unlike some titles that try too hard to be flashy, the European Championship struck the perfect balance between eye-catching and elegant. When someone like William Regal walked to the ring with this championship, it felt like they were wrestling royalty. Sadly, the European Championship was retired in 2002, unified with the Intercontinental title in a
Champion, yep.
move that robbed WWE of one of its best-looking belts. However, if you want to see what happens when WWE actively decides a champion,
Oh my God. The Divas belt. I would rather them just kept the small WWE Women's Championship belt. I'd rather them do that. Granted, you can tell that it was just like here you go. You know what I'm saying? They didn't really put too much effort into the original WWE Women's Championship belt. But the Divas belt, if you're a little girl, this was what you wanted. If you were a little girl and you saw this is what you wanted. It basically gave off, this is for marketing to little girls that happen to watch the show, which is fine. But when it's hideous. A grown woman should not be walking around with this. It's great for a toy to sell to kids, but this was horrendous. I stand by it. This is one of the worst looking belts ever. Because you basically said our women's division at that time wasn't about wrestling, it's about who looked like a diva. That's all it was.
championship doesn't deserve respect, look no further than the Divas Championship.
Horrible. Horrendous.
Introduced in 2008,
Garbage.
this belt looked less like a prize worth fighting over and more like something you'd win at a Hannah Montana-themed carnival.
Yeah.
The shape literally resembled a butterfly, and the women were stuck carrying around what appeared to be a bedazzled hair accessory. To their credit, performers like AJ Lee,
They tried.
Paige, and Charlotte Flair managed to elevate the title despite its appearance. But no amount of great wrestling could make fans forget they were watching competitors fight over something that looked like it belonged in a toy aisle.
Yes.
Speaking of mistakes in women's championship history, nothing compares to the bizarre monstrosity that was Fabulous Moolah's personal women's championship. Moolah's title wasn't just an ugly belt. This was a championship that featured a literal cutout photograph of Moolah's face plastered right on the front. Imagine if Roman Reigns or Cody Rhodes decided to slap a glamour shot of themselves on their title belts. That's essentially what Moolah did. The design looked less like a wrestling championship and more like a giant fridge magnet your grandmother might buy at a tourist trap. It was tacky, self-aggrandizing, and perfectly symbolized Moolah's stranglehold over women's wrestling during her era.
Yeah.
Between the narcissistic design and Moolah's well-documented history of terrible behavior, this championship represents everything wrong with that era of women's wrestling wrapped up in one hideous package. But after those nightmares in championship design, the Raw Tag Team Championships from the Ruthless Aggression era remind us that WWE once understood how tag titles should look.
so good. Man, take me back.
Introduced in 2002 after the brand split, the tag title belts were sleek, professional, and actually made the tag team division feel important.
Look at them.
The design borrowed elements from the Undisputed Championship that was being used at the time and created a visual connection between the world title and tag titles that elevated both. The red WWE globe provided just enough color to tie them to the Raw brand without making them look like toys.
Yes.
Teams like Evolution, La Resistance, and the world's greatest tag team all looked legitimate while holding these championships.
So beautiful.
It's genuinely baffling why WWE moved away from this design in favor of what came next. Sometimes companies fix things that aren't broken, and the tag team division paid the price for years. When WWE decided to unify the tag titles and introduce a new design, fans were hoping for something special. What they got instead looked like someone had melted down a bunch of pennies and shaped them into the most...
Oh my God, I was waiting for it. Who remembers the pennies tag titles, bro? When I saw this shit, I was like, bro, they look like pennies. And then they ended up splitting them up for Raw and SmackDown to only look like dimes and quarters. So they upgraded. Now they don't look like pennies. They look like quarters now. I was just like, what the fuck is this? Oh my God, bro. It's like so much money be put into this company. The least you can do is put in some competent looking championships. It's the one thing about AEW that I can say I appreciate. Pretty much majority of their belts look fantastic. They all look good for the most part. They all look good. They look good out the gate. This shit looks horrendous. Horrible.
Boring configuration possible. The belts were absurdly round, like physics-defyingly round. Champions looked like they'd strapped giant 2-pence coins to their waists. Bret Hart presented these titles to the Hart Dynasty on their debut, and even the Hitman couldn't make them look prestigious. No wonder
horrible.
The tag team division struggled during this era. The titles themselves looked like they weren't worth winning. But somehow, incredibly, WWE managed to make these even worse. In 2016, they simply changed the black straps to red for Raw and blue for SmackDown, keeping the terrible bronze plates and round design. Fortunately, when WWE needs to remember what a world championship should look like, they can always look back at the legendary big gold belt for inspiration.
Of course, Big Goldie, classic.
The Big Gold has a history that stretches back to the NWA in the 1980s, where it represented the most prestigious prize in all of professional wrestling. When legends like Ric Flair, Sting, and Hogan carried this title, it looked like they were carrying actual treasure. Even when Hollywood Hogan spray-painted an NWO logo on it during WCW's hottest period, it still looked incredible. When WCW folded and WWE acquired the belt, it became the World Heavyweight Championship and continued its legacy. Triple H's infamous reign of terror in 2002 might have been controversial, but nobody could argue that he didn't look like a champion carrying this belt. Later holders like Batista, John Cena, CM Punk, and Daniel Bryan all benefited from its inherent prestige. What made Big Gold special was its timelessness. Whether it was 1986, 1996, or 2014, the design never looked dated or out of place. It worked for every era, every wrestler, and every storyline because it was simply perfect.
Beautiful.
After celebrating that timeless classic, the WWE ECW Championship serves as a painful reminder of how quickly a company can ruin a beloved design.
Yeah, bro. I don't know how they...
The original ECW World Heavyweight Championship was perfect for the promotion.
I'm so glad that they brought this up. The original design... Chef's kiss. I love the original design. It basically was kind of like a rendition of Big Goldie, but had a lot of the, you see it, the ECW logo is crossed out and scratched up and stuff so it reminded you of Big Goldie, but had its own little flair and style to it. It was beautiful. And then they fucked it up. I don't know how.
Rough, aggressive, and intimidating. It looked dangerous, which matched everything the hardcore company represented.
Looked great.
When WWE revived ECW in 2006, they initially kept a version of that design, and fans were optimistic. Then 2008 happened, and WWE decided that belt was too cool for their watered-down version of ECW. What they replaced it with was an absolute travesty. Everything about this belt...
This was horrible. There was no thought put into this fucking belt right here. Horrible, y'all.
Belt felt sanitized and corporate, the complete opposite of what ECW once stood for. The new design was silver instead of gold, immediately making it look like a mid-card title rather than a world championship. This was the final version of the ECW world title before the brand was mercifully put out of its misery in 2010. Paul Heyman probably cried himself to sleep, knowing this is how his baby's legacy ended. In stark contrast to this underwhelming design, the $1 Million Championship proved that personal titles can be absolutely spectacular when done right.
Yeah. The $1 Million Championship is
After failing to win the WWF Championship from Hulk Hogan multiple times, the $1 Million Man decided to just commission his own title instead. The result was something that was absolutely perfect for his character.
Yeah.
The design threw out every traditional championship element and replaced it with pure arrogance. No text explaining what it represented, no traditional plates, just unapologetic wealth on display. Was it garish? Absolutely. Was it over the top? Without question. Was it perfect for a heel character whose entire gimmick was flaunting his money? 100% yes. The belt looked expensive because it was supposed to look expensive. The gold and diamonds aesthetic never goes out of style. And the belt remained instantly recognizable decades after its introduction. When LA Knight and Cameron Grimes fought over it in NXT, it still worked perfectly. We don't see enough personal championships in wrestling anymore. And that's a shame because when done right, like the $1 Million Championship, they can be just as iconic as any official company title, even if for a brief period. Speaking of iconic belts that lasted for a short period, we got to talk about the beauty of the NXT UK.
Oh, yeah, I'm so glad he talked about this. Oh, my God. NXT UK had the best looking belts. Every belt was better than every belt that we saw on the main roster. Don't at me, because it's facts. Oh, they were so fucking good. They were so good and beautiful and regal, and they felt and looked like championships. Beautiful.
A championship.
NXT UK Championship.
Introduced in 2017 as part of WWE's expansion into the United Kingdom, this championship looked absolutely phenomenal from day one. What made this belt special was how it managed to feel both prestigious and unique simultaneously. The championship's legacy was cemented by the incredible wrestlers who held it. Pete Dunne's brutality, Walter's dominance, and Ilya Dragunov's heart all looked even more impressive with this beautiful belt around their waists. Arguably, during its existence, this was the best-looking championship in the entire company, while the main roster was dealing with bright red Universal Championships. Sadly, when WWE shut down the NXT UK brand in 2022, this belt was retired along with it. Its short run from 2017 to 2022 means it never got the long-term recognition it deserved, but those who watched the brand knew they were witnessing something special every time that gold was raised.
Beautiful.
However, not every NXT championship has been a winner, as evidenced by the original NXT championship that looked like it was made from melted school bus parts.
Yeah, the original one, it didn't look that good, to be honest with you, but I think what worked with it is because so many wrestlers held it, ended up becoming world champions, and they really built some prestige off of it. So, but it didn't look that good, but some people didn't have a problem with how it was designed. Me personally, I thought it was like, could be better.
When NXT launched as WWE's developmental brand in 2011, they needed a championship to represent their new system. What they created was a belt that looked like it belonged in TNA's X Division. Champions like Seth Rollins, Big E, and Bo Dallas had to carry this monstrosity around, and to their credit, they did their best to make it look important. Thankfully, WWE realized their mistake and redesigned the NXT Championship in 2014 with a much better black and gold aesthetic that actually looked prestigious.
Looked good.
The yellow belt is now mostly forgotten, which is exactly where it belongs, buried in the discount bin of wrestling history. But if we're talking about championships that should never be forgotten, the Winged Eagle Championship stands alone as the greatest title design in wrestling history.
Yes.
Introduced in 1988, the Winged Eagle belt was instantly beloved and has remained the gold standard for championship design ever since. What made the Winged Eagle perfect was its balance of detail and simplicity. Every wrestler who held this championship looked like a true world champion. Hulk Hogan introduced it to the world, but it became synonymous with the excellence of wrestlers like Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, who carried it through the new generation era with pride. When WWE retired it in 1998, fans mourned the loss. That mourning continued for over 2 decades until WWE finally brought it back for a brief period in December 2024.
Oh, so
Whether it was the Golden Era, New Generation, or Early Attitude Era, the title never looked dated or out of place. Speaking of eras, check out this video next about the most loved and most hated eras in WWE history.
Hey, this was a good video, bro. I'm going to go ahead and give this one a like. And if you haven't checked out Wrestle Mafia, I believe we checked out one of their videos in the past. Go check them out. Show them some love. Hey, man, this brought me back down memory lane in some great ways and in some horrible ways. But, yeah, the Wing Eagle belt, chef's kiss, bro. Big Goldie, chef's kiss. The original ECW championship, chef's kiss. The NXT UK championship, chef's kiss. Hell, the European title, chef's kiss. The Raw and SmackDown tag titles before they turned into quarters and pennies, chef's kiss. I miss those unique designs. WWE's all about making sure the logo is up in front and center. But hell, even with the SmackDown titles, the SmackDown tag titles are fantastic. I love how they look. They're great. The Raw ones could be a little bit better, for sure. The Raw tag team titles, that is. Look like big-ass pizzas. But hey, comment down below. Let me know what's your favorite WWE Championship belt of all time, whatever design it is, or even if it's not in WWE, maybe it was in WCW or in AEW, or maybe in New Japan, because I've seen some New Japan Pro Wrestling belts. They look absolute gorgeous. Let me know what's your favorite wrestling championship belt of all time. But I appreciate all love, support. Road to 200K. Appreciate y'all kicking me. See you on the next one. Peace.